In order to get started, we need to set up the environment that we will be working on while trying to develop this .NET Web API project. And of course, we need to install some softwares and we need to do some configuration on our machine so as to be able to get it ready to make all of these stuffs. And I'm ensuring that you are going to start fresh. If you already have all these softwares installed, there's no need to do that again, as it can be like a repetitive task. The first software that we're going to install is now the .NET SDK, or the .NET Software Development Kit, and we're going to go for .NET 7. And again, we need to install the code editor or IDE, and in this case I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, but you can go ahead and use any other IDE that you may like. There is no limitation to that. And also we need to install the Postman, and the Postman, what it will help us to do, it will help us to test our endpoints, and we will ensure that our endpoints are working or not by sending the request to them by using the Postman. It is very helpful. We'll see that in the coming videos, okay? And the next software that we need to install will be the Git, as we are now the modernized and civilized developers. We need to keep track of all the changes that we make on our project, and that's where the Git will come into play. We'll use Git in order to track all the changes that we make on our files or on our project in particular, so as to be able to know that we were having this current state, or we were having this current working project. If it breaks, you can revert back to the current working project. And it is interesting. You will see that in the coming videos on how to use the Git. Again, as we are going to be working with data, we need also to install the database. And in this case, I'm going to be using the Postgres here. You can use any other database, but the Postgres works fine for me, and I can recommend this to use as well. You can go ahead and try it. It is very interesting and it doesn't bring a lot of shenanigans. All right. And of course, we can't go ahead and download all of this in this video, but I download all of these packages or all of these softwares on my machine area. We're going to perform the installations and perform all of the configuration that we need to do so as to be able to get up and run. I'm going to minimize my browser, and voila, in my download folder you can see that I'm having all of these setups. I'm going to install one by one, and I like to start by installing the .NET SDK, and I'm going to install this setup. I'm going to double click on the setup, and once the opened like this one, I'm going to go ahead and click on install, and I'm going to authorize this and wait. The instruction is pretty straightforward. There is nothing fancy in here, so let's give it a go and wait. Alright, and you can see that it was successfully installed. I'm going to go ahead and close, and to make sure that this is successfully installed, we need to check. And the way we check, I'm going to open the CMD in here, and once the CMD gets opened, we are going to go ahead and type .NET --info, and it will bring you all this information about the .NET SDK that you installed. And this is pretty much everything we need. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to continue by installing the IDE. And in this case, I downloaded the Visual Studio Code. As I told you, I'm going to double click on it so as to be able to install it, and wait until the setup launches. And I'm going to go ahead and accept the license agreement. I'm assuming that I read all of these. Of course, why not? I'm going to go ahead and click on next, and the next again, and the next. I'm not going to create a desktop icon. I'm going to click on next again and install. So wait until this goes through. All right, you can see that it was successfully installed. I'm not going to launch it for this time. I'm going to leave this unchecked, and I'm going to go ahead and click on finish. And again, I'm going to install my Postman. I'm going to double click on the setup and wait. This will install it like in a second, and let's wait. And wait until it gets installed. All right, you can see that it was successfully installed, and it created the desktop icon, but I didn't authorize this to do it. It did it without my permission, which is kind of crazy, but it's okay. This is how it will look like. All right, now we are sure that we can get this to work. I'm going to close this window, and I'm going to go back to my setup. I'm going to install the Git version control. So let's give it a go and wait. Authorize this one, and go ahead and click on next. This is pretty straightforward. You can go ahead and click next, even though you can close your eyes, and make sure to not miss any button. It can go ahead and get installed. I like to simplify things. You can go ahead and add your configurations if you have one, but for me I don't have one. That's why I go ahead and click next so as to get it up and running. Alright, and once this is complete, again I'm going to click on finish, and the last but not least, I'm going to install the Postgres database. I'm going to double click on the setup and wait until it launches. I'm going to close this window as this is now the last software that we need to install inside here. And again I'm going to click on next, but you have to pay attention when it comes to database because they can bring some shenanigans. So I'm going to go ahead and click on next, and this is now the install directory. I'm going to leave this as the default one. There's no problem. I'm going to go ahead and click on next, and this is now the packages that it's going to install. It is going to install the Postgres SQL Server. It is going to install the pgadmin, which is now the graphical interface that we can use to access our database. It's going to install the stack builder and the command line tools. I'm going to leave all of these checked so as to be able to install them all at once, and I'm going to go ahead and click on next. And also it is going to show you the data directory. You can see that it's pretty much the same like the one on where the Postgres is installed. And I'm going to leave all of this in one place. Go ahead and click on next again. And when you reach here, please, you have to pay attention because whenever you set this password as wrong, it can bring you some troubles. I'm going to set my password in here and make sure to remember this because we'll be using this whenever we are trying to connect to the database. I'm going to go ahead and click on next, and the port for Postgres by default will be this one. If you want to change this port, you can go ahead and do it, but make sure you have the level of understanding on how ports works. If you don't know that, leave it as this default one and click next. And again, this for the database cluster, I'm going to leave this as default and click on next, and next again, and next. And in this case, to try to install the Postgres. Alright, and you can see that our Postgres database is successfully installed, and it is saying that stack builder may be used to download and install additional tools. I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. I think we don't need these either. So after we are done installing all of these, we can go ahead and also install the Visual Studio extensions that we will need. So for example, when I am in my Visual Studio Code, let me search for Visual Studio Code. Okay, Visual Studio Code inside here. Let me open it first. And this is how it will look when it is opened, and you're going to install some of the extensions that we'll need through this course. And I'm going to go to it's written, and this is now the startup. Let's go through this startup real quick. I'm going to choose this dark mode, and after choosing this, I'm going to get and close, and to keep this with dark mode. I'm going to go and click here. This is where now I'm going to find the extensions, and the extension that we're going to install are the C#, the C# dev kit, and the C# extension, as well as Intel code and the NuGet gallery. And the rest we need to install the Postgres, and I will show you another extension that I like a lot, and that is a secret. I will tell you that whenever we are getting through that. I'm going to write C# in here, and you will see that there will be a lot of results from the search, and the one that we're going to install will be this for C# dev kit, and this C# will try to install other extensions like this one. So let's wait until this is complete, and you will see all the extensions that will be installed by installing only this C# dev kit. Alright, and once this is completely installed, you can see that it added other extensions. When you go down, we'll see what is installed. When you can see that it was successfully installed, and this one was also installed. You can see that it was installed successfully, and this one for C#, you can see that all of these three extensions were installed because we installed this C# dev kit. We are going to also add these C# extensions, and the need for this, for example, let me go to my files and try to create one file. Whenever I go here and for example, let me open the folder. Let me open, for example, the document folder in here so as to test what I'm going to show you. Whenever I come here and try to do right click, we can see that I'm getting this normal VS Code list of the options that I can choose from. But whenever we install this C# extensions, we see further options, and that's what we're going to see. So let's go back and try to write C# extensions and make sure to install this one. The one that I'm going to choose will be this one with a lot of downloads, and I'm going to go ahead and click on install. And after installing, we will instantly see the effect of that as it will be ready. So whenever we go back here and try to create, you can see that it bring this new C#. You can see that it will bring all of these snippets that you can choose from, and this can facilitate your work as it will give you the starting point. And after all of this, I'm going to install also the NuGet gallery. And when we are working with the C# and the .NET stuff, we need to install some of the packages, the dependencies, and we need to use this NuGet gallery. And the one that I'm going to use again will be this one. I'm going to go ahead and click on install, and you can see that it was successfully installed. And I'm going to again install the Postgres care. And there will be a bunch of this, but I'm going to choose this from Chris Corkman. Click on install again and wait until this is completely installed. And voila, after this, I told you that I'm going to show you another secret extension, and it's no secret at all, because this is the extension that I like to install, and it can carry my folder so as to be able to know that this folder contains this, and it looks nice, and that it is called material icons, and it is very good, and to make your folder looks nice. I'm going to choose this one. You can see that this is the one with all downloads, and I'm going to go ahead and click on install and wait. And it doesn't do much more than highlighting your folders and the files into the attractive way. So I'm going to use this material icon, and whenever I go back to my folders, you can see that it tried to color this. So whenever I go ahead and click a file, for example, I'm going to call this as index.cs. For example, you can see that it detected this as C#. And whenever I add the folder, for example, I'm going to call this as errors. You can see that it highlighted these with a red one. And whenever I add another for example, interfaces, you can see, or another for API, and you can see that it was able to do this, and it can show you what's going on. All right, that's pretty much everything that we need to start off. And in the next video, we're going to see on how we're going to create the first .NET Web API project and all the required configuration. And from now on till next time, stay cool. Ciao.